What's up? Today we're talking about why I play Factorio. Let me give you some background. Factorio is not the first factory game that I've played. I started off with Dyson Sphere program. I have about 300 hours in that game. That's across like maybe 2 or 3 game saves. And then I played a bunch of Satisfactory. Probably have about 2 or again 300-ish hours in that game. And at some point I decided it was time to give Factorio a shot. And now I have again like 300-ish hours in this game. My first game save is I think like 40-ish hours. We'll go in there in just a minute. But I think the reason why I started playing Factorio is different from why I still play it today. Yeah. Let me load into my first game save. So this one, I had just picked up the game, and this was off of maybe like 400-ish hours of factory building in other games, but I still feel like it's kinda underwhelming, you know? Like, this one's got a pretty big pollution cloud. That's because I wasn't using any efficiency modules or anything. But I remember that when I was playing this game save, I had hit this point where I needed more production just on everything. And I didn't have things set up in a way where I could expand in a logical way, I guess. And so it felt really bad. I mean, I had, a couple trains coming in, and they had like some shared stuff, some infrastructure. But yeah, at some point, this game save, it really stopped like scratching the itch in my brain, and it started feeling more like more trouble than it was worth, I guess. And so after this, I probably went to go play another factory game for a while. And I think what I enjoyed here was kind of the newness of it. The reason why I started playing Factorio was because I was looking for more like problems to solve, and I was promised a lot of depth in this game, right? Compared to back then, it was before they even had trains in Satisfactory, and Dyson Sphere program. It was before they had combat, so it was interesting having like the base building stuff in Factorio. And there was like a whole new set of problems to solve, right? But then what I didn't realize at the time was that part of the problems that you're solving in Factorio, they don't really come from the actual like, they don't come from the little things, like you start off this game and it's just a matter of how do I get this iron ore into this furnace, and then how do I get the iron plates out of that furnace? Those are the problems you're solving, right? But then as things kind of scale up, you have to go further upstream on the problems that you're solving until eventually it's like a matter of bringing in multiple trains with a bunch of ore on each one. In this game save, okay, I did have a personal roboport. I don't remember making use of it much. Like, I was not if you take a look at everything here, like not a whole lot of this is copy pastable. Like sure, these little furnaces, I could probably copy paste them a bit. Let's go check out this engine production. But you can see that even after 40 hours on this game save, I was thinking on like a very small scale. And the thing is, when I started playing this game, it was about those small scale problems. That's what I enjoyed solving. And the large scale problems, once they started coming in, it was more than I had asked for. Like I just wanted to keep solving these small problems, kind of like the little puzzles. And the bigger like logistical puzzles, I hadn't really learned to love those yet. They were just kind of headaches or barriers in the way of me solving these like smaller problems. And I decided to start over. I think if I was making that decision again today, I wouldn't have made a new game save. I probably would have just revamped this one. But I did decide to make a new save. And so this first one had 40 hours, but the second one I did 130 hours is how far I got in this one. This is before Space Age. That's why I get these pop-ups when I load in. And so here I decided to try out a couple versions, a couple different like main bus systems, because I was trying to kind of scale up my production and I didn't know how to scale it up any other way. And I started using bots here a lot. The bots, I found they really simplified the like conveyor belt transportation of things. And I enjoyed making these like compact designs where the bots did a lot of the untangling of those knots instead of having to arrange things in super clear ways. So yeah, I had this bus and then some ore processing, and then down here I had another bus. And this one, I had decided that I didn't like this design of like carrying chips and plastic and red chips and blue chips. I didn't like this because whenever the blue chip production would turn on, it's like we were out of green or red downstream. And the way I tried to solve that problem was by just only putting as close to the raw resources as I could on the bus. So this is a very long bus. Wow, that's kind of silly. I would not do that again today. But yeah, so I tried putting just like iron plates, copper plates, plastic, and then like these don't even go all the way to the end unless they're needed. And this was my attempt at like solving the problem but bigger. And I went for like very copy pastable designs this time. So each one of these areas, you know, it's like copy paste these red chips a bit and the drones do the legwork on connecting the ins and the outs. Same for the green, the blues right here. This is my blue science, copy pasted a few times. Purple science, yellow science. This is another yellow science that I pasted in. And so then down here, I just adapted those designs, but for taking in the, you know, these like more basic, less processed items instead of the processed stuff. So they've got like these additions where this is where it made the green chips and the red chips, since they weren't being bought by the bus anymore. And as you can see, the problem I kept seeing with this design is one of these or the other would run low. So every time that I, you know, increase iron production and fill this back up with iron plates, now now we're being bottlenecked by copper plates. And so in this instance, we're being bottlenecked by the iron. But I promise you, it just kept flip-flopping back and forth, back and forth. And maybe there's a solution that people have come up for this problem. This is like a mall right here. But I didn't know how to continue from here. But this is when my motivation for the game kind of changed. So this is where I had realized that even though I had signed up initially for those small problems, and I was hitting these like bigger problems that ended up feeling more like headaches, between these two buses, this was the first time that I realized that these like bigger problems are actually pretty cool. And it's fun, like trying to come up with these big solutions for big problems. And big in this case is relative. I'm sure somebody watching here is like, buddy, that's not a big problem. But I'm just telling you how I felt about it, I suppose. And so this is where I got hooked on like these big logistical solutions to these problems. But around here is where Space Age had finally dropped, and I decided to start over again, but on Space Age. So yeah, let's check out that game save. This is what my little Fulgora area looks like now. This is where I landed in the last video. Well, I guess I landed here, but this is where I kind of set up in the last video. Now I have a train running and some scrap going, and it does all the Fulgora stuff, right? But if we go to Novice, so this time the way that I tried to solve this like big stuff has to get places, and a lot of it I tried to solve it with trains. And so in my first game save, you saw I had a decent maybe like 5 or 6 trains going around or something. But in my second game save, I had maybe like 2 or 3, and those were mostly just dropping things off straight to one end of the bus and then like going everywhere else. And this time I decided to go for the more like generalized train solution, because in Space Age they added the interrupts, and so I had a lot more control over making like a train system where I could just, with minimal setup after the initial configuration, I could just have like some parallel systems going. So now, instead of like the main bus solution, I really enjoyed this train thing where I don't even smelt where I'm mining the ore like I did in the last one. I actually I'm sending like raw ores and all that out to these places, and you see those copy pastable designs. This is all still right now because we're full on chips, but yeah, I've been kind of looking for like these big problems, and I'm invested in like seeing how far they can go, because this base is like, it's like kind of big. I think it looks pretty small personally, and I've seen some bases that are just absolutely massive. And I'm really curious right now. The reason why I keep playing is because I'm really curious to see how big the problems get. Like, do I reach a point where everything is just kind of repetitive again? Where the scaling stops getting bigger on the problems, and what happens instead is like you just kind of repeat. That's something that I've seen happen with the biters. Like, I could go through right now and clear out a lot of this stuff, take control of these choke points, right? Kind of like what I did here. I could, like, here's my pollution cloud. You know, I could like build a big wall here and here and here, and I could really increase like the area that has no biters. But the reason why I'm not really interested in doing that is because I feel like that's not a big problem. I feel like that's just a lot of really small problems. And because you have to go to each one of these nests and like clear it out. And I've been trying to figure out like a bigger solution for this problem than just running around clearing the nests, like closing off the choke points. One solution that I've considered trying is setting up like a big bot network around the perimeter that I want to build, and then having it just like build itself with its own independent power. Maybe it taps into the main power grid and just letting it build over time. But that wouldn't clear the biters. I am curious if this is what people use those like artillery trains for. Maybe the idea is you have like a train track that's being laid that you kind of define from way up here, you know, like if I pick up this train, you can map out some trains. How do I do this? Like I can map this out pretty far. So I'm wondering if people kind of map out a train track, let it go build itself with some construction bots, and have an artillery car that's just clearing all the biters along the way. That sounds nice, but I don't really like the rail part of it. But I don't know if there's a better solution. So that's something that I've been sitting on. Like right now, this factory could really use some increases in like production, right? Like I could use some more, I think it's blue science or something. I'm not sure, because I could definitely use more of the science from Fulgora. What are these? Electromagnetic. I could use more of those, but I mean, you know, that's really just a matter of kind of, you know, hitting the copy button and like pasting, right? Not literally that simple, but that's kind of what it feels like. And those are just like not as fun, because it would take a long time to do that. Maybe, I mean, I say a long time, it'd take maybe like an hour, 2 hours to do that, which is not that long considering this is nearly a 100-hour save file. But I try to keep the problems different and like come up with different solutions, you know? And that just doesn't sound like fun. I'm trying to come up with like a fun solution. So yeah, I hope that kind of makes sense. I wonder if other people think about it this way. If you have solutions, would I want to hear them? I don't know. Yeah, I guess I would. I guess I'd like to hear it. I think there's a perspective of like part of me feels as if hearing other people's solutions means that I would kind of be like locked out of doing that for myself. But I don't think that stands up. I don't think that makes sense to me. But I'm not sure. Maybe I gotta think about that one more. Yeah, so that's kind of my unedited meandering through why I play Factorio. I wonder if I'll feel like adding more eventually. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. See ya.